Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this card. I was in the mood for something that was almost fluorescent. This is inspired by a sign that I passed while driving, and the colors were just so bright and vibrant, I thought it might make a fun card. So let me show you what I used to make this card. I'm using a white card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and I'm going to change it up a little bit this time. I put Melon Mambo on the outside of the card to match these flowers, and I think I'm going to use Elegant Eggplant this time to go as the framing piece. So I have two pieces that are 4 by 5 1/4. Then I have two pieces that are 3 3/4 by 5, and that's one for the inside and one for the outside here. Then you will need some scrap Melon Mambo, and you will need some scrap of the Elegant Eggplant, and you will need some scrap pieces of the Lemon Lime Twist. Now that's not big enough, but I have other scraps. Okay, then you need, in the Lemon Lime Twist, to make this little sentiment. This is 1 inch by, I think it's 2 3/4. Yes, 2 3/4 inches to make a little banner here. And of course that banner could say anything. So that's what we'll need to make the card. And what I'm using are the dies from the Eclectic Layered Thinlit dies, and I am using from this one this little flower die, this little flower die, and then I'm also using two smaller flowers, and these come from the Bloomin' Hearts die set. And part of the reason I did this was just so that I could run 4 flowers through at once, and not have to run so many times on the Big Shot. So I just selected other small flowers to go with this, and then I've got a set of leaves, and right now I can't remember where these leaves come from. I thought it was this set, but I don't think that's right. Maybe it is from the Eclectic Layers Thinlit. It might be. It just might be. And I'll verify that down below before we're done. And so that's what we need to make the card. And the stamping, my stamp today is this Happy Birthday stamp from Big Birds. And then in the layer, in the Oh So Eclectic, I'm using this little stamp here that is, they look like almost little tulips or something. I just wanted something that gave a little background, and I'll show you why I haven't decorated the inside of this one yet, and I'll do that when we get this going. All right, so that's what we need, and let's just go ahead and get started. And we can start by folding and burnishing our card base here and getting that all ready to go. And we can set that aside. These two layers, in fact, this layer can go straight on here. Okay, all right. So the work that we're going to end up doing is going to be on one of these small panels to get this background that I've done here. And this is an ink color wash with a resist. And I'll show you exactly what I did to do that. The other stamp that I used was this little flourish from Timeless Textures. And what I'm going to do is get out my Versamark ink, and we are going to stamp this little flourish down here on this piece of white cardstock, and it's going to be randomly set around the card so that we get a good coverage of this flourish on the card base here. Now I'm going to keep the mystery going because I am going to cover this Versamarked pattern on here. Oh, I see one more spot. I need to put a little bit of floral design here, maybe right in there. All right, and then what I'm going to do, and you'll notice I didn't use my embossing buddy, and that's because on this particular one, if there are some stray spots of the white, it won't bother me in the least. Now, so this is white embossing powder, and I'm going to take a spoon here and get some of this white embossing powder in here. You'll see the pieces of paper in my box, and that's to remind me that this one is white and not glitter or anything else. So, kind of an old method of keeping track of what was where. And I don't know if you can see that in the camera. You might not be able to. I'll move it around a little in the light. But I have put white embossing powder all over my little flourishes there. And I'm going to set this aside and take out my heat tool. And I am going to heat this embossing. Okay, so I think I got that completely embossed. And again, I apologize, it's really hard to see the white on white, but maybe if I move it a little bit in the light, you can see where it's being laid down on the card. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let that dry for a second. And what that does is I'm going to put a color wash over the top of this, and because those areas are already embossed in white, the color won't stick to the embossed area. And so it's called a color resist technique. And so that's what I'm going to do here. So the ink colors that I'm using, I wanted something, like I said, bright and almost fluorescent. So selected Lemon Lime Twist, Melon Mambo, and Elegant Eggplant. And I'm going to do that process where I press down on the stamp pad, and what that does is it lays down some fresh ink in the lid, and that's what I'm going to be using. So I want that in all three colors. I want that ink in the lid, and then that'll give me the ink to work with in my watercolor washes here. And on this one, the watercolor wash, in fact, I was almost tempted to use Wisteria Wonder instead of the Perfect or the Elegant Eggplant here, only because the wash was light and ended up looking more like Wisteria Wonder than it did elegant eggplant. I'm going to move that card out of the way, and I'm going to use my aqua painter, and I've got a little bit of paper towel here, and what I'm going to do is drop a drop of ink, and I think you can see that, yeah, you can, into this ink here, and I'm just going to wash this color along on the inside of this card, sort of in random places. And you can see now where that white embossing is coming through. And I think I want the colors to be a little bit more vibrant. So I'm going to go back over that a bit. The more you go over it, the darker the color gets. And I thought it would be prettier with a darker wash. Okay, there we go. Now, what you do with this is you just maybe get a little bit of water on your brush here, clean it off until the water runs clear. It doesn't matter if the bristles are stained, as long as there's no color left on the brush, and there isn't. So I am now also going to take a little bit of this Melon Mambo here before I put this away, and I'm just going to put a little bit of color wash down on this other panel for decoration for the inside of the card. So that's all I'm going to do with that. Now I'll clean off my brush again to make sure, and that way I think I can put the Melon Mambo ink away, at least for the moment. Okay, so next I'm going to move on to the elegant eggplant, and here I am going to put some of that color wash along in different places here on the card. And again, because that other one came out so light, I'm going to go over this a bit to get a little bit of a darker color going on this one. All right, there we go. And again, I will just clean my brush until the water runs clear, and then I can close this up for the time being. And I'm going to next put a little drop of water in this lemon lime twist, and I'm going to fill in some of these spaces here with the lemon lime twist. And this lemon lime twist surprisingly came out fairly light, and so it's going to require my going over it a couple of times, I think, to get the color that I really want. Okay, so there we go. That is much brighter than the original card, which is here. So that now looks more like elegant eggplant and more like Melon Mambo because I've colored it over several times. Okay, so now I'm going to close up my ink pad, and I'm going to bring back my heat tool, and you're going to see that the watercoloring technique leaves the card wet. And this isn't watercolor paper, this is just plain old cardstock. And it's going to bow the paper, and the trick is to heat it from both sides, and that helps straighten it out. Okay, you'll notice that when I was embossing, I held the heat tool fairly steady over the powder to melt it. And when I was drying the card, I moved my heat tool all over. The reason for that is that I don't want to overcook my embossing powder and take the shine away. And so I wanted to keep that heat embosser or the heat tool moving along. And now that this is fairly dry, you can take the kinks out of it a little bit by just manipulating the paper. And also when we glue this down, we'll put lots of adhesive on this to help it do what we want. Okay, so now I'm going to move this out of the way and move some other things out of the way here. It's still a little damp, but I think that'll do for what we need to do. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to adhere this piece right on the piece of elegant eggplant here. And I'm going to use plenty of snail to make sure that this card front lays flat. There we go. Isn't that pretty? I just love the vibrancy of the colors. Reminds me of the geraniums that are that really bright pink. It's kind of fun. All right, so then I had the dies, and to save time I have cut out some flowers, and I probably cut more flowers than I needed, but I wanted to make sure I had enough for the inside and the outside as I was inspired to put them on. So I have quite a few cut of the elegant eggplant and the melon mambo here. And then I cut my leaves out of the lemon lime twist. And I'm going to cut some of those, excuse my head, I'm going to cut some of those up into pieces. Another thing I might just tell you about is when I was looking for the color combinations on this, I have a system. There used to be something in Stampin' Up! That was called a color coach. It no longer exists. So I have each color of the various cardstock that Stampin' Up! Has, and you'll see that they're all labeled which one it is, so I don't have to guess. And sometimes if I'm looking for inspiration, I'll just lay them all down to try and get an idea of what I might want to put together that I wouldn't normally expect to find. And it's amazing what you can get if you just put some things down and just start fooling around with them. Some color combinations that you would never expect would work, and they do. So there's just a whole bunch of things, and I ended up with these two when I was looking for brighter colors. And I keep this pile of cardstock, and I have to add this year's in colors. I haven't done that yet. And I keep it right here on my desk, handy, so if I need to match another color, and I could just punch a hole in this and put it on one of those key ring things to keep them from being loose, I suppose, but I kind of like to toss them and see what I get inspired by. Anyway, just an idea of how to help yourself find some colors that kind of work. And when I put that with this, I thought that's the combination that I want. Anyway, so now we have some arranging to do. And I have my piece of lemon lime twist here for my happy birthday. And I'll bring the card out here. And then it was just a matter of putting different flowers together here, mixing up the, see that part's awful dark there, so I think I'm going to run a leaf right up through there. And then laying the flower, since pink is on that side, I'll put the pink on this side, maybe purple on that. And then I've got some smaller ones here that I can put in place. And I think it's just a matter of what pleases your eye to get them put down here, and maybe some more leaves here, and then some individual leaves along here. Now I want more dimension than them just laying flat, so let me show you what I did to get some dimension on the flowers. I have my pierce mat, and I have my piercing tool, and I did go along the backs of the flowers and give some dimension to the outer leaves on many of these flowers, and then turned it back over and tucked the center down. And there I got something with quite a bit more dimension to it. So I'm going to do that to a couple of flowers here, and I'll speed this up so it's not tedious. Okay, all right, so on this banner that I'm going to do here, I'm going to take my happy birthday, and I think I'm going to, since I put the backing on in in Elegant Eggplant, I'll do my stamping. See how it looks if I do it in Melon Mambo here, and get my happy birthday. Push it a little bit over to this side because I do want to give this a banner tail. So there's my happy birthday. That looks nice and bright and cheery. I think that'll do just fine. And I think on the inside, for the inside panel here, I have this one stamp that I told you about that's got like a little flower detail on it. And what I'm going to do is stamp off once here and just put some of this little flower detail on the inside of the card here. And then I think I'm going to put a flower and a leaf on the inside. I've got a little smudge there, but guess where my flower is going to go? We'll take care of that smudge in just a second. Okay, so now it's a matter of arranging my flowers and taking my banner. Well, let's just go ahead and do the detail here. And all I really need to do is cut basically up the center and then cut in from both ends to that spot to create a little flag tail. And there you have an instant banner. And that's going to go right down here, and it's going to go on a couple of regular dimensionals here. So there. All right. Now, I have all of these flowers here that I have added some dimension to. And so now it's just a matter of placing them. I did know that I wanted a green leaf up this way to be out over the pink and the darker color here. And mini dimensionals, these things are absolutely great because they fit in such wonderfully tight spots. So I can take one of these dimensionals from here and place it right in the center of one of these leaves. I'm going to take and do that with a couple of them. All right, then I think, a nice pink flower there. And again, I'm going to use mini dimensionals in the inside of a couple of these flowers. Now I think I've got the backing off of that. I know I do on that one. And so I'm going to stick that flower right in there. Great. There, I feel like it's more finished. Okay, so I'm going to push these out of the way, and I'm going to add a few little rhinestones to the center of the flowers and then around the card. Okay, so there we have the outside of our card decorated, and then on the inside we have our piece that we added a little bit of color wash to put on the inside. So let me add that. And I still have a few flowers. I have this one here, which I'm going to add a couple of mini dimensionals to. And I've got this little leaf, which I think I'll use to cover my smudge from earlier. And so there is our project for the day. This pretty, a little kind of wild on the color side for me, but it was really what appealed to me, at least today. And you can see the difference. This one, I got a little bit of ink smudges on this one. I like this one. I like the darker colors. Actually, I like them both. You'll have to let me know which one you like on the outside better. But that's our project for today, and you can purchase any of the items that you see here today on my 24/7 shop, www.lbettinger.stampinup.net. And the winner of the prize draw for July was Donna Applequist. And the prize draw for this month is the planner kit. This one, the Love Today planner kit. And this is $37 value in the catalog. And it's just a wonderful set. Something that you'd be able to use for your regular life or for your Stampin' Up! Stuff. It's a wonderful planner kit, and that's what the prize draw is for the month of August. Can't believe it's already August. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and visiting my YouTube channel today. I do appreciate it. And until next time, I'll be back with more cards and more projects. Bye.